It's really good to be together again for a storytelling circle. So we'll be hearing from four of our colleagues who will be sharing personal moments, personal experiences about their journey around faith and GBV, and their work to prevent and respond to violence against women and against children. I want to emphasize, like I usually do with these circles, that this isn't a webinar, it's not a conference, it's not a panel discussion. It is a space for shared listening and reflection and connection. Um, we have, like I said, the four storytellers, but we also have listeners in the room, and we will also have listeners who will be watching this recording after it's concluded. And I want to invite all of us listeners to enter this space without judgment, but with openness and respect. And I also want to emphasize that silence is also part of such a storytelling circle. So we will have pauses where we just reflect, and it can be in silence. We don't always have to be talking. And I'm telling myself that as well. Let me move the slides. I want to invite all of you to please introduce yourself in the chat, just your name and where you're from. If you can ensure that you're muted, but if your Wi-Fi is good enough, please keep your video switched on so that the storytellers feel a bit more connected. Then we're recording this session and it will be shared. It will be up on SVRI's YouTube page and then linked to our COP's webpage. And that is it in terms of our text. With a chat box, you can also use it to add any reflections from your side. As a storyteller is sharing, please use it, engage, affirm. But after two of the storytellers have spoken, we will have a reflection pause, and then after the third and the fourth as well. So you will have that opportunity too. So I have pictures here of three of our four speakers. The first is Suzie Greco, who's joining us from the US. Then we have Jeremiah, who's joining us from Liberia. We have Modupe Adelanwa, she's joining us from Nigeria. And then Philecia, I don't have a picture of you, but again, so glad that you can join us. And I'm going to stop sharing now because I do want everyone just to be able to see the person, our storyteller who is sharing. So without any more pause, Suzie, I'm going to hand it over to you. If you can please share with us, everyone, all the listeners, what I asked our storytellers to reflect on in these stories is if they can share a moment of transformation. So a time when faith helped them or their community to respond differently to violence against women or against children, or a moment that brought new understanding. So that was the prompt. Now, Suzie, before I finally hand over to you, I just want us all to come together in this moment, and let's just all take a deep breath in slowly and a gentle breath out. And we really try and be present here in this space for this hour that we're together. And I want to share just a quote from Helen Keller, maybe to help us be present here. She said, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." Suzie, I'm handing over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Sorry, trying to get unmuted here. All right, thank you for providing the sacred space to share today. My name is Suzie Greco. I am the author of The Stone Sphere, and I carry a story of faith forged in the crucible of violence, a story that asks not just why, but what now. So I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse by both my Catholic grandfather and my father, who served as a bishop and in higher ecclesiastical positions in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I carried these learned behaviors of passivity and compliance into a marriage that became extremely harmful after I disclosed my childhood trauma. 4 years ago, I finally escaped that relationship. In the midst of it all, I became an author, not by ambition, but by what I believe a divine calling. I'm not a writer, but during the worst of the abuse, I began secretly writing my story because I felt with certainty, which I can't fully explain, that my heavenly parents were asking me to do this. It was an act of faith in a moment of despair. That faith was shaped by an ancient story, the myth of Philoctetes, getting tongue-tied. The Greeks abandoned him on an island after a snake bite left him with a festering wound, and for 10 years he nursed his pain alone. Only after the army learned that they could not win the war without him and his sacred bow did they return for him. Bitter and broken, Philoctetes refused until the divine hero Hercules intervened and told Philoctetes, "Your destiny too, Philoctetes, is the same. You will follow this man to the city of Troy, where you will be cured of this dreadful disease." When hearing the call from Hercules, Philoctetes relents, rejoins the army, and returns to Troy to fight the war. They win, and he is made whole. So I held on to that story because I too was stranded, caught between past trauma and present danger. My soul split apart. One cold evening, exhausted in every way a person can be exhausted, I sat on the hearth of my fireplace and prayed for help. And then audible words came. That which has split you apart will bring you back together. I was not losing my mind. I was being found by grace. In my faith, we believe the divine speaks through dreams, visions, whispers, and sometimes clear words in quiet spaces. But when you share such experiences, some may label you. They may call it psychosis, not prophecy. They may pathologize what you know to be sacred. Yet that message became my compass. The abuse that shattered me would not be the end of me. It would become the material for my rebuilding, and not just for me, but for others. My advocacy would be my healing, and my voice would become my bow. But healing in community is really complex, especially when the community itself is both a sanctuary and a source of harm. And a central theme of my story is what I call untrained ministry and institutional harm. In the LDS Church, as in many faith communities, local leaders, bishops are volunteers and they are not trained. So when survivors come forward, well-intentioned protocols often re-traumatize, and the institution protects itself. Perpetrators are shielded. The soul that runs to the church for balm finds instead another wound. So when the walls of amnesia around my childhood abuse crumbled, I disclosed my childhood abuse to an ecclesiastical leader. That's where my faith was. And instead of support, I was met with PTSD, isolation, and the terrifying reality of being a stay-at-home mom of 3 children for 26 years, financially bound to an abusive husband. But then a turn. 6 months later, I met my newly called ecclesiastical leader, David Holland, the son of one of our 12 apostles, who has graciously given me permission to share his name and our story. He is not only an ecclesiastical leader, but he was a professor at Harvard Divinity School. And he began, as many leaders do, with assumptions shaped by perpetrators. But over the next decade, something rare unfolded. A leader willing to listen, to learn, and to be transformed. And I'm going to share 2 moments with him. Once I had a dream, and I was in a college classroom. President Holland walked in and sat down. This is in the dream. And someone asked, "Why are you here?" And he replied, "This class will help me in my ministerial responsibilities." And I shared the dream with him. And he asked me the question, what was the textbook in the dream? And I said, "The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk." He read it. I was stunned. Why would he, a Harvard professor, believe and trust in my dream? Another time, while reading scriptures one night, sitting in the corner of my room, I saw a vision of President Holland dressed in all white. It was like a fat flash of a movie passing before my eyes, and I had no idea where it came from. It was so sudden, and the next morning, at a crowded temple session, I felt a hand on my shoulder, and I turned, and there he was, dressed exactly in the vision, all in white. At that moment, I knew my divine parents were saying, "We see you. We are here, even here with you. And these are not interruptions of nature. They are the glimpses of the Creator at work, renewing the world from within through willing human hands. And I'll share another, I'm not sure how much of this I'm going to share. I'm just going to share part of this. One of the things that President Holland and I really struggled with was the theology of forgiveness. I was told I had to forgive my perpetrators, but I was living with one of my perpetrators and I could not forgive him. It was terrible. And shortly after, Matt Potts, who is a professor at Harvard Divinity School, published a book called Forgiveness: An Alternative Account. And Professor Potts, he had actually heard the survivors' stories over and over, and he talks about forgiveness often being reduced to anger management. And this stigmatized the justified anger of those who had been harmed. And this was real for me because I was lashing out at my abuser extensively, and I had PTSD symptoms. Second, forgiveness is often collapsed into reconciliation. President Holland tried to reconcile me with both of my perpetrators, and I won't go into that story, but these are horrific stories that he made incredible mistakes with me, that I write about in my book, that he is forever, sorry about, but he didn't know. He didn't know until we both learned these things through Professor Potts. And I'm really grateful for Professor Potts and his teaching. And I learned so much from him, and I won't go into too much detail there, but my story is not just about surviving violence. It's about transformation that becomes possible when faith is not just a platitude, but it's a practice of listening, of believing survivors, of sacred solidarity to the institutions we love. We need to be trained. We need protocols that protect the vulnerable, not the powerful. We need leaders who, like President Holland, are humble enough to learn from those they serve. To fellow survivors, your wounds are not your destiny. It may be your bow. The thing that seems to disqualify you may be what equips you to heal this war. And to all who walk with survivors, your willingness to listen, to believe visions, to read the books, to sit in the sacred spaces of another's pain, that's ministry. And that is how faith responds to gender-based violence, not with easy answers, but with unwavering presence. So the stone sphere, the title of my book, it's an ancient symbol of wholeness. It reminds me that what was shattered can be made whole again. It's not ignoring the cracks, but letting grace fill them with gold. It is the heartbeat of my story is healing, redemption, and spiritual transcendence, not as a happy ending, but as a new creation woven into divine love and human courage. And we're all Philcotties, wounded, abandoned at times, and yet indispensable to the battle. And I really hope that we have the faith to pick up the bows and the courage to return to each other, to fight together for a world where violence is not the last word. And that's it. Thank you, Lisa.
Oh, Susie, thank you. I let all of us just pause for a quiet moment together, um, acknowledging in our personal spaces where we are, what Susie just shared with us so deeply and personally. Let's take a deep breath in as we hold what we've just heard, the courage and the hope, and the faith in your story, Susie, and uh, just thanking you for what you shared with us. We're just going to hold it here. We're not yet opening the space for reflection. We'll be handing to Jeremiah just now, but just for a moment, we'll stay in this space. Jeremiah, I'm going to hand to you. Thank you so much for being willing to share with us today.
Okay, thank you so much, Lisa, for this opportunity, and thank you to everyone who here today to listen to my story. I'm happy to share. This is a story of my dad. my father, he just passed off anyway. So I'm happy to share this. He died last year, December, but I think I did well in changing him from the bad behavior to the rightful one. And at least I'm happy that I'm able to share my story today. Um, to begin my story, it starts with my father came from fishing, and where is my food? My dad demanded of my mom. He was a fisherman and had just come home from being at sea. Oh, I have been busy taking care of things. I did not have any time yet. I am sorry, she told him. You should have prepared my food first before doing anything else. He started to beat on her. I was scared and crying. I tried to find someone to come to help. A neighbor came and he stopped. I was scared and crying. I tried my best to do everything that I could, but I was a kid. At the time, I never had anything, so I was frustrated. I was defeated, and I feel that I couldn't do anything. My father had a habit of beating on my mom every hour, every time, all of the time, in public and even at home. He did that because he felt that was the way of, correcting their wives, even children when they do wrong. That was a traditional setting that they all believe that this is the proper way to correct people. So because of that, my siblings and I, we hated him. We we avoided him. We never even really had any good time or good relationship with him. Uh, when my mother died in 2014, I was already out of high school by then, and I wasn't living with them anymore. When I came back from Moravia for her funeral after she died, I came back for her funeral. I decided to let everything go. I decided to build that relationship back with my father because I knew that he was the only parent that I have now. So within that period of time, so this was a call that I had experienced and wanted my mother to be alive so that I can find means to make things right with my father. When I started working with the Episcopal Church of Liberia Relief and Development 2015, I invited my father for uh, our 16-day of activation program. When he saw there, every other activity that went on, it touched his life. It touched him until he even called me privately and talked to me, my son. I am sorry for all what I've been doing to you and your brothers and including your mom. So with that, that was what I actually wanted from him. So I was happy. And then even though my mother passed off, but he was the only person that we had now to be called, father. And that was the only person that we connect with now. So when he apologized, and then I started bringing him on board, you know, he started participating in most of our activities, and he became a changed man. He got married to another woman, and then he was a perfect, perfect man. So it hurt me because when my mother passed off, my mother didn't experience the love that he was able to give to his second wife. But I was happy though because I saw the change in him. I saw something better from him, and then we all was like, "Oh wow, this is a good thing. This is a better thing for us." We wish that we would have started this from the beginning, and then I mean, I was so friendly with him again, and I lost him in uh, uh, 2025 last year, December, and that's just it. Thank you so much for the opportunity given me.
Thank you so much, Jeremiah, for sharing with us, with all of us in the room, and again, sharing such a personal story, affecting you so deeply. Um, we're again pausing, but we will now have some space for reflection. Again, for those of you who maybe joined a bit late, it's not a question and answer break. It's a reflection break where we can share maybe what resonates with us, what Suzie or Jeremiah said that resonated with us, or that confronted us, or that challenged us. You can share it out loud or you can use the chat. But what I do want to emphasize is that we recognize that some of us here may carry our own personal experiences of violence. And given the time that we have today, this isn't a space where we can safely and fully hold those stories from everyone in the room, and give them the space that they deserve. So for this moment, for today, in this storytelling circle, I want us to please stay with the stories that's being shared by our storytellers, and up to now by Jeremiah and Suzie. So anyone, what stood out to you, what resonated, what connections between faith and courage did you hear and did you connect with in their stories? We're a small enough group, you can unmute yourself and just share, or you can type in the chat.
Yeah, although I came a bit late, I'm familiar with Susie's story, which continues to be both an inspiration, but also a source of pain. That it was religious leaders entrusted with power and confidence that led her to experience this pain, and her own courage out of this experience to rise up and to make her experience something healing for herself and for others. I'm always, when I hear your story, Suzie, I'm always both angry at religion, but at the same time inspired, just like the Easter story that we just had, that even when they crucified, Jesus was able to rise up. And thank you for the courage. And also thank you too for Jeremiah. I also heard your story as well, and your courage, to watch your father transform and to watch another woman who is not your mother enjoy the benefits while your mother passed on without those benefits. That is pure courage. So thank you for honoring us with your stories.
Thank you, Nontando. I feel that was so beautifully said. Thank you for honoring us with your stories, because it, well, I can only speak for myself, but I feel blessed to be trusted with your stories. I'm going to now hand over to our third storyteller, Modupe. Are you?
Yes, yes.
There you are. Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm still here. Thank you. Should I go on?
Yes, please, please.
That's not good. Yeah, can't turn on my camera. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Modupe Adelanwa, and I'm from Nigeria. And it's all about passion for me because there are certain things there was a particular thing that I experienced in childhood. But for me, I'm a survivor and I'm completely healed. So I did not stop at that. And so I raised voices for those people that are, most especially children and women that are going through stuff, being abused daily. There was a time in my journey with the organization I have, which I'm not mentioning, when I believed that passion, knowledge, and strong advocacy were enough to fight gender-based violence. But my mind kept talking me, reminding me of how it all started. What runs in me? What makes me to do what I do? I used to be an introvert. I hardly talk, but now I find myself talking. When um, the Spirit, I would say God, decided to do what He did with me, I was actually struggling with the fact that I'm an introvert. How will I help others to gain their voices when I am struggling with my own voice? But I was quickly led to the story of Moses in the Bible that was directing God to Aaron, the brother, saying that I'm just a stammerer. How do I face people? How do I help to deliver these people? So that was what gave me that. That was what encouraged me that if Moses, a stammerer, would do that, then there is nothing that I cannot do with God on my side. So I was fully committed. I understood the systems. I spoke boldly after that time. I kept speaking where I go, schools, churches, and all that. I showed up in communities with something just running in me, not me. And I was like, that's the solution. But then I encountered something that deeply unsettled me. Can I quickly say exactly what happened to me in my childhood? It was sexual harassment. I had to fight someone that was quite older than me, a family member, a family friend that struggled with me, that wanted to rape me. So I was able to fight it off. So that's why I can stand today and fight for people that are in my situation. It was not just the violence, it was the silence. I remember one particular community engagement that we had. We had done everything. We have the right awareness program, education, even we offer support services to the people that we met to engage with. But the room still felt closed. Women avoided eye contact. And the moment they do that, you know that these women are going through stuff they don't want to talk about. There were no questions, no disclosures, just quiet agreement. And there's no way you can force anybody to say anything. So I left the place feeling so heavy, as if I have not achieved anything today. Not because we didn't speak well, we did, but because we couldn't reach them. And when I say we couldn't reach them, they are the ones that are feeling the pinches. It's happened to them, not to me. That night, I sat with myself and asked a difficult question. What is it that we have not done? What are we missing here? Because clearly something was missing. And in that moment of reflection, my faith became more than something I believed. It became something that began to challenge me. I realized that I have been approaching the work from a place of urgency. Let's do it. Let's help people. So that they will hear this voice. They will know what something. A place of wanting to fix, to resolve, to solve, to respond quickly. But I had not fully paused to hold on and understand the deeper realities shaping people's silence. Why are they silent? Because for many women and families, their responses to violence is not just social, it is spiritual, it is cultural, it is deeply internal. It is there, though we cannot see with the physical eye. Some believe they must endure it, so they keep quiet. Some believe speaking out brings shame to them. And some believe silence is strength. That was me for years, I kept quiet. This, what I did not cause to myself, but I just look for the opportunity to help people to open their eyes, especially children and parents, to know what to do. And then it hits me. If faith that we're talking about is part of what sustains silence, it's because of, I'm a Christian, I must not. Then the same faith, must also be part of what brings freedom to every one of us. That realization changed me. Not just so how I deal with situations, but how I listen, how I enter communities, how I see survivors. I begin to shift in my mind. From speaking first to listening first. From correcting to understanding. From presenting solutions to building trust. I started building trust. And in one of our next engagement, where I found myself, I made a very conscious decision to do things differently. I didn't start with statistics of how many people have been raped in 1 year. I didn't start with laws. I started with simple conversation with people, talking to their heart about their dignity, about their right to life, about their right to be happy, about their right to good environment and safe environment, about the truth that no human being is created to live in fear, abuse, or silence. And then I paused. I allowed the room to breathe. I allowed people to feel. And for the first time, something changed. Someone spoke softly, almost like she was unsure of what she was allowed to and not allowed to say. That's it about stigma. Then another voice followed, and another, and it was so loud. It was not dramatic, but it was real. And at that moment, I realized something powerful. Transformation does not always begin with noise. Sometimes it begins with safety. That moment transformed my life, because I began to understand that this work is not only about ending violence, it is about restoring voice to the voiceless. It is about creating spaces where people feel safe, where people feel seen, not judged, heard, not dismissed, valued, not blamed. And my faith deepened in that season. Not just in what I believed, but how I showed up with what I believed. I began to see that this work is not only about changing others, it's also about being changed myself, learning patience where there is resistance, choosing compassion where there is misunderstanding, holding on to hope even when progress feels slow. Since then, every intervention, whatever we do, whatever within my organization, which I'm not mentioning, carries that balance. Strength, sensitivity, advocacy, and empathy, action and reflection. And personally, I no longer measure impact only by numbers. not just by how many cases we have reported or how many interventions are completed. I measure the impact by the quiet shifts. A woman who begins to ask questions, another who becomes more aware and protective, a young girl who starts to believe that our voice matters. Those are the real beginnings of transformation. And faith has become my anchor in all of this, because this work can be very, very heavy. It can be draining. It can test your belief in change. But faith reminds me why we continue. It reminds me that every life has value, that every voice deserves to be heard, and that even in the most difficult spaces, light can still emerge. So my moment of transformation was not just one event, it was a shift from doing the work to understanding the people, from speaking loudly to, to sitting and just waiting deeply, listening, from bringing answers to creating space for healing. And that was what made all the difference. So today, as I round up, let our faith not be silent. Let it be brave enough to protect, bold enough to speak, and strong enough to transform lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Modupe. I'm going to use words that you used in sharing your story. Let's allow the room to breathe while we just reflect on and feel what Modupe shared with us around her journey.
Thank you.
Philecia, I'm going to hand over now to our fourth storyteller, Philecia, and Philecia's from Liberia. Philecia, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here, Lisa.
Wonderful. Please do go ahead.
Okay. Can I keep my video off, and maybe you just use the pictures I sent to you in the background.
Okay, I'll
I don't know.
please continue. I'll see if I can get up as you've witnessed at the start, my tech abilities are limited. But Philecia, please share your story and I will see if I can add the picture.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa, and thank you everyone for coming to listen to our story. My name is Philecia Jatsa Ross Martor, and the story I'm about to tell you is my own experience with an institution that is also promoting and GBV, but there are people in the organization who are also what do I say, describe it, that is also they themselves um, perpetrating violence against others. I would not call the institution name, but I will explain my story and my experience and how my faith have led me to the point where I was able to be constrained through the help of the Holy Spirit and not go into violence, and the knowledge I gained over the years working with GBV organization that helped me to restrain myself even in the midst of violence being perpetrated against me. So this is the story. I was working with an institution that is promoting gender-based violence and helping faith leaders to be able to help their community to fight against violence in their community. And during a period, I also experienced violence in that institution. I had a conversation with my colleagues and my, I would say, head of the institution. And according to her, I was not capable of doing the work that I've been hired to do. And so they were taking me from one position to a lower position, and they were bringing someone in who would step in to be able to help to do the work that I should do. And I agree. I did not fight them, but I was very clear to tell them that, look, this is not the way to go. This is how we should write the report based on what we have just had, a new kind of new sets of organization, new sets of community. Prior to this time, we had one set of community, and over the time we got a project with like 4 sets of community. And so if we are writing a report, we should write the report as we have 4 sets of community. We write the report for each of those set of communities separately based on the indicators that we have. No one will listen, and they continue to write the report as it is. But the partner will always send back feedback and say, this is not how it should be. We should write the report the right way. And so they brought in a new staff. Though the staff and myself, we have the same qualification, but they made him, because he was a male, they made him a boss of mine, which I didn't fight, because I decided to be silent and to fight with God. And so over the time he was employed, but he came to the project and did not know the project. So they called me back and asked me, my bosses called me and said, look, people can come from one organization to another and they will not understand what is happening in a particular organization. So we want you to be able to work along with this new staff and put it on track. And I agree, because I'm a Christian. I believe that I'm supposed to be in a position to help others or to treat others the way I would want them to treat me. So I agree. And I did just that. For like 3 months, I was like showing him all that he needed to do, or what we have been doing and what we should do in this new project. And he agreed with me. So when he said it, they started to believe it gradually, and we went into it. Finally, we were supposed to, normally we write a report at the end of the quarter, maybe the first week in the next quarter, we submit. But for whatever reason, they chose at the time to give the report prior to that time. And then when they asked me, I told them, look, the report from the field, we only have like 2 months. December, we are still having the challenge to get those reports in. And normally, the people in the field know that at the end of the month before they send reports, at least the first month, the last month, the last week in the month. And so I told them I only have 2 months report. And so I did the 2-month report, and I sent it to my boss, my present boss now. And then I gave him all the instruction and taught him what to do. At the end of the day, they went in the room to do the report in my absence. And so they did the report in my absence. And then when they were sending the report, they copy me on the report. And so I reviewed the report and then I called him. I said, this report, all the achievement that we did over the past 2 months that I sent to you, I don't see it in this report. In fact, the way the narrative is written, it shouldn't be. We should write the narrative in a way where we will give the report for each of the set of communities separately based on the indicators that we have. And he said, oh no, let it be because the report is just a preliminary one. We will send the main report in January. So he sent the report. Unfortunately, we got a feedback from the partner that the report, especially the MAE report, was not correct. And so we had to do it again. So they called me and say, Philecia, let's be bargain, and let us do the damage control. And so I agree, because it is my institution, it is our institution. Whatever thing that affects the institution affects all of us. And so I agree.
Alicia,
In
I'm
the
just sorry, I'm conscious of time, so
yeah,
there's
so
about
I said 10 minutes.
sorry.
10 minutes. So I decided to go into the damage control, and we did the work. And so in the process of doing the work, whilst he and I were in the room, he was writing to the partner. And so I felt affected, or I felt bad, because I thought that he would have let us have the discussion. Later, I did not see the email that he was sending. And then I was very involved into doing the work that we were doing. And so at the end of the day, I went home. Normally, at the beginning of each day, I will go through my email and look at it and see all the things I need to respond to, and then do my to-do list. Whilst doing that in the morning, the next morning, then I saw it. So I replied to that email. When I replied to that email, all that I said was, oh, we were in the room together and we were doing the damage control, and you were writing. I said, but anyway, you are the boss. You do what you want to do. But I think it was not fair on my part. That's all I said. And then they called me the next day and told me that I should write a letter of apology. I did. I wrote the letter of apology. Why you are. I took off all of the partners who were on the report. Only so of us who were in our office, I wrote my concern. And then they told me to write a letter of apology, which I did. At the end of the day, when I did it, they still came back and said I should use their wordings to do the report. And so we had other report to do. So I didn't pay much attention. And the day of my birthday, that will hurt me most. On my birthday, I went to work. Whilst working, the administrator came to me and said, if I don't rewrite that report, I should get out of the office. And once we were there, she was yelling. And then the Holy Spirit just touched my heart. And I said, today my birthday, oh, just tell me happy birthday now. She didn't mind. She just came right. Oh, this is our computer. She jerked the computer from on my desk. The next thing I knew, she was calling security to get me out of the office. Like that. And as God will have it, the Holy Spirit helped me. And besides telling her on my birthday, I didn't say anything. I just packed my bag after she forcibly checked my computer and was working with her and calling the security to put me out of the building. I just walked out. And up to today's date, then after doing what she did, she wrote me a letter of suspension, and then took half of my salary. And up to today's day, she has not realized what she has done is wrong. And this is an institution who supposed to be promoting GBV prevention and response against survivors. And so today I was hide at the moment, but I tell God, thank you that He gave me that grace to remain calm. And He gave me the grace also to share the story that I've shared, so that those of us who are into working with survivors and helping others to help other survivors, that we ourselves should not be perpetrators. That is why I say I'm telling this story of mine. But I gave God the glory because He has taken me from where I used to be. Because if I was where I was, and she did that to me, that would have been a different thing. But I gave God the glory that I was able to interact. I was able to learn over the years about how to respond to violence and how to be peaceful and how to bring peace in the community. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you, Philecia. Thank you to our four storytellers. Thank you for these rich and these meaningful stories and reflections and personal sharing that you did. Let's take just a brief moment of quiet. I think to acknowledge the honesty and the wisdom that has been shared with us. So we just quiet for a moment. I want to again open space for reflection from our listeners in the room. What stayed with you? What stood out? What connections did you notice between faith and courage? You can use the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and just share with us, please.
It's like who polices the organizations that claim to be fighting for GBV, for justice, because her experience raises issues about who are we as organization accountable to, and why would something like this happen to her? Just thank you for sharing, and really, I was just so sorry that happened in that kind of space.
Selena, please go ahead.
Sure. Maybe I think, as I put in the chat, and I think as this session has beautifully reflected, that positive task of restoring voice, and I think that's just been so beautifully reflected by all of the people that have spoken about the ways in which they've been able to find their voice and have that restored. And I think that's just been a highlight for me, that we can't end violence without taking seriously that positive project of what that means, and just to appreciate all of the speakers whose voices have been showcased today, and how valuable that is for us, and what a privilege it is for us to witness that restoration of voice. So thank you.
And I appreciate the emphasis, Selena, in the fact that how it was shared by the storytellers as well, and now by you, that it's restoring voice. It's voice that existed and was taken away. It's not a privilege that you're now getting the opportunity to have voice. Joan, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Joanne, there I see you. Sorry.
Yeah. I just wanted to thank everybody who spoke. It's such an honor and privilege to be part of this and to just listen to their stories. They were really moving and transformational also. I feel like I've been transformed just listening to these stories. And I just appreciate the power of voice, and also appreciate this space as, a platform to allow people to speak, to share, to heal, to, share their journeys of transformation and healing. So I really appreciate it. And I think for me, the quote that resonates with me was, I think from, I can't remember who it was, but it was about, the fact that faith can sustain silence and has often sustained silence, but it can also be used to disrupt it. So I think this is really powerful, to use this space to disrupt the silence that can often be perpetuated in spaces of faith. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Joanne. That was beautiful. Anyone else? I see we're on the hour now, but anyone else want to share one word or phrase or something that really struck them from listening to these stories?
I just want to add, faith matters in all of this. There's a lot of hurt in the world, and there is a power that we all have agency, and there will always be actors doing different things on the stage of life. But there is something greater than us, that can help us in whatever form that may take or shape, that can enable us in ways that we never expected or maybe believed in. Faith can take all kinds of different forms. And I think that's not always acknowledged in a lot of realms and spheres, and it's hard to fight. But I'm grateful for this opportunity and this platform that we can talk about faith in a healthy way, and where it can bring change in ways that were unexpected. So thank you for all who made this possible, for all the storytellers, and also for Lisa for this platform. So thank you.
Thank you, Susie. And I'm gonna close now. You'll see that I shared the four storytellers' email addresses in the chat. They gave permission. So please feel free to reach out to them if you want to. And I want to thank everyone today, our storytellers and our listeners. Thank you for your openness, your presence, the care that all of you brought to the space. I think it really is a reminder that faith can ground us, it can challenge us, it can stretch us, and it can move us towards change and transformation. I think not only within ourselves, but also how we show up for others. Thank you so much to our storytellers for your generosity and for honoring us with your
Thank you so
story.
much. Thank you.
And I'm going to close again with a quote. I like quotes for these storytelling circles. And this one is from Desmond Tutu. And he said, "Hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness."